right, going live. Let's make sure the audio on everyone else's end is coming through beautifully. And indeed it is. All right. Well, hello there, everyone. For a change, we're actually getting started ahead of time. There's a reason for that. My tardiness has been corrected by our fantastic guest because today for this live stream we are proud and happy to have the curator of the Obsidian Archives, Sam himself, here with us to do an interview.
Hello everyone, how you all doing?
Say, ISO left an early comment here. Looking very forward to this one. ISO, I hope that you are hopping in already, so that way you don't miss a beat. And for the sake of transparency, because transparency is always good, we're going to try to conduct this as quickly as possible because it's very late where Sam is.
It's like 1 a.m. in the morning over here, and I'm not much of a drinker, so this is a nightmare for sober people.
Yeah, unless you're like me, I easily can go to like 3 o'clock and be like, okay, should I do it? Are we just going to do 48 hours straight? What is sleep? That is not good for your health, kids. Don't do it. All right. Well, for everyone who comes in as we do this, feel free to drop comments, questions, and the likes if you wish for Sam there in the live stream chat. But and we'll try to get to as much of that as possible before we have to bid Sam adieu. But to get us started with this interview, curator, can you tell us in brief your story of the Obsidian Archive? So I've already done my particular overview and review of your story. I want to hear it in your words. What is the story of the Obsidian Archives?
The story is the long-awaited sequel to Arthurian legend, where the son of Mordred, Melehan Pendragon, has been exiled from the lands of Albion to the hostile lands of Obsidia. However, on one fateful day, he casts a Faustian bargain with a she-demon named Xeria. However, this demon does not want his soul, but wants for him to make her a princess.
All right. Say, nice and concise. There's obviously way more that's going on with this particular story, but at its heart, this is what it's about: the heir to the throne and a demon princess, their relationship, and the shenanigans that ensue as a result. And I want to ask, what inspired you to go with this particular story? I mean, our friend Nathan on this channel, he's inspired largely by stuff from The Legend of Zelda because he loves playing those games. I am inspired by wacky dreams that I had as a kid to write my stories. What inspires you, or what's driven this particular story?
I think what driven the story is mostly history and world building. We live in an age now where everyone is incredibly nostalgic for time periods they never lived in, like the Roman era, medieval Europe, the Holy Roman Empire, etc. I think the kind of story I wanted to tell is something Game of Thrones-esque, but with a lot more like grounded like geopolitics, with a lot of like intrigue and betrayal.
Okay. And just to elaborate a little bit more on that, after having read your book, which again, to make clear to people who don't know much about the Obsidian Archives, or maybe know a little bit more, there is a written story that Sam is currently in the process of querying. Last I checked, to agents and to publishers. No word yet, as far as I know, on how that's going, and that's kind of par for the course when it comes to publishing. Unfortunately, you spend a lot of time sending out letters and copies of your story. But actually, having had the chance to read what you wrote, that you so kindly gave me a copy of. I can definitely get the Game of Thrones aspect. I really like all the different factions, the machinations that are going on, and allow me to give you a compliment and throw some shade at another person at the same time. You actually follow through with your political machinations that you
Uh,
write.
yes, like every action like has a reaction and consequence. It's like they're definitely like weighing up the potentialities of failure and betrayal. While like in other series, like people might be cautious, but the actual threat or peril never like manifests. And I feel like when you don't manifest the threat, then what exactly are you trying to risk for your characters, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that absolutely comes through with what you have written, both with what's there on the main story that's up on your channel, and also within your book. There are consequences, and I really like that. And even for Melehan, uh, I know I'm mispronouncing his name. It's Melehan, correct?
Yeah. I like to call him Milan, even though that's probably not the right pronunciation, just because it sounds slightly more like anime villain.
Mm-hmm. We'll go with Milan then, just so that way you and I are saying the same name. So I like, even though Milan's got some tricks up his sleeve, which are really cool, and in some people's eyes might take away from some of those consequences. What I will say, without trying to give away spoilers for those who haven't watched your videos, because it is in the videos, one scene in particular. Um, I like that the consequences of some of the actions that are taken against Milan, even though he's able to negate some stuff that happens, it leaves just that weight. Like, you can just see that weight of distrust on other people, and kind of a craving for more power and control, which gives him, I actually, like, a true moral gray shade to this guy. Like, I root for him, I like him, but at the same time, like, I also don't like some of his qualities, but I understand where it comes from, and I think that that's really good writing on your part.
Oh, it's very appreciated to hear, man. I think when it comes to Milan, I kind of it's like writing JoJo in reverse. I'm not like writing like a Joestar's journey, but rather I'm writing how would a JoJo villain get into power, and what would the limitations be of like an absurd ability that has all many like absurd counters.
Yeah, I like that. I really do. Uh, excuse me. I've got a question for you. Amongst your very colorful cast of characters, uh, and I think ones that people who have followed your work will most quickly pick up on, characters like Milan, Xeria, or Xera, Dee, and Loretta. Amongst them, and amongst the wider cast of your characters, who is your favorite,
My
and
favorite
why?
character is Erwin Grunhauser. He doesn't show much in like the main story with like Mila and Xeria, but like his journey is like the most consequential for everything else.
How so? Like, if you can expand a little bit more on that.
Well, when you read the book, a large chunk of the book is like from Erwin's perspective, and he's like literally just a small bookworm in such a like a dark and massive machine, figuratively speaking. And it's very hard to gauge Erwin in terms of his important, like how much does the machine need him, how much does he need the machine, and is there something either of them aren't telling the viewer.
Hmm. And I'm actually going to quickly stop the footage right here. So, within within the book that you've written, uh, we um, we find ourselves kind of in this setting. What you should see right here on your screen, in the distant future, as the man who is looking through the history, curating it. Um, I really enjoyed this aspect of your story. It's 1984 s quality. You said like, what's it like? How much does he need the machine? How much does the machine of this government and this society in the future really need him? And you're left to ask a lot of questions of like, what is the truth? What's really going on? And there's some revelations I'm not going to give away just because I don't want to spoil people for whenever your book does have the chance to be released. I will say that's one of the things I wish had been more in the book was just seeing more of the world as it currently is at that time through Edwin's eyes. Just because, like, as a historian myself, I love to see how past and present connect. And there's so many things from the past that we get with Melehan and Xeria's story that I would love to see how that relates to the state that Edwin is in at the moment. That was one of those things I was just like, I'm craving it. I need it. Give me more. But you, as the author, you've got your choices to make on that. So
I think
that,
what's important is when you're telling a political spy thriller in like a 1930s kind of setting, I think what a lot of historians purposely seem to ignore is the fact that the participants in those 1930s societies have a deep admiration for some sort of past history, and it is that admiration that also like needs to be fleshed out, especially when you're making like a fantasy retelling of like actual history. It needs both that past and present to add that much needed context.
no, and you do make a good point. That is something that is glossed over. How, yeah, the people of the 1930s will let you guys wink wink if you're not immediately catching on. Think Indiana Jones. I don't mind normally saying saying the names of these people, but YouTube doesn't like that. Uh, and no, it is true. There is an admiration for the past that gets people to look back into it and interpret it in such a way that appeals directly to them. Oh no. Oh wait. Okay. I thought I saw something that just popped up on my screen that I thought there was a technical problem. Whoo! I did not overreact too much right there. Sorry.
It's all good, man.
But actually, as of right now, um, in case anyone who's listening to this is interested in history, as of right now, history is the best-selling genre in all of publishing. Currently, there's again is a great desire to look back at the past, and and definitely people want to reconnect with the past in a way that uh, that adheres to what they feel they are missing right now, or the confirmation that they need for what they're doing right now. That's why a lot of people look back to the past. Speaking as a historian.
Of course.
And yes, let me take out my degrees and wave them around. Now then, a follow-up question, because I asked you who's your favorite character. Who is your least favorite character that you've created? We all have it. We all have a character that we've created that we absolutely despise, and that we have a reason for why we keep them around. Who is that for you?
I think the character I probably hate the most, it's either Iannucci, who hasn't shown up yet, or it is probably I think there is like a nation of gnomes, and one of them is going to be truly, truly reprehensible.
Is this the one that started up Gnomely fans?
You know, he's probably related to the one who made OnlyFans, maybe.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to meeting these characters. And why, and without, you don't have to spoil us, but give us a hint. Why is it that one of these or both of these characters stick out as like, oh, I know I wrote you, but I despise you.
One of them basically kind of signifies everything wrong with high society. Basically, people get a bit conspiracy brained, but if someone gets into like Hollywood or into like rich people clubs, they're only like allowed in once they're at least one piece of dirt on that person, and that is the puppet string that is like used to basically keep them in line. And I think it's very discouraging because it's like I think no one deserves to be blackmailed. I think like
Mm-hmm.
like sleeping dogs lie is actually kind of a virtue sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. I just speaking real life. I've known some people who will pull that same disgusting move. They interact with people in order to find dirt, so that way they can hold that over them, and that's just such a despicable practice. So yeah, I can already dislike this character. All right, very good. Um, Now then, my next question I have for you. This is jumping back into your not yet published book, and and this was something that took a little bit of getting used to when I started reading it. And I think I even sent you a message about it. You blend the third person omniscience when you're looking at Melehan and Xeria and D, and especially for Loretta, who her story is in many ways very separate from the others. But then when we get to Edwin, we jump into
It's
second
Erwin.
person.
I don't know why
Erwin,
you keep
sorry,
saying Edwin.
I sorry,
It's all good.
I wrong there. When we come to him, you you've jumped over to second person limited. Why did you decide to go with this particular like risky route? Because that's something
Um,
that
I can
like
answer that. I
so
can
many
easily
authors
answer
like
that.
don't do it. So why'd you go that way?
The second person is incredibly, incredibly contextual. You won't pick up it in the first book. It's probably going to be around the second or third book that the second person perspective actually makes a lot more sense. I like to play around with the Ludo narrative. As for the third person omniscience, the book in question in the first book, when they're talking about like the imp and the prince, it's literally written by Xeria, but Xeria is in contact with everyone else that gone through those exact same like series of events. So she kind of wrote it more as a generalization as opposed to just like her perspective. Plus, you have to remember, she like if you see the Obsidian Archives, we meet Xeria in a cage, and like I don't know how to break it to you, but it's very hard to write a good story if you've been like trapped in a cage for a long while.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Say that say that thank you for the explanation. Like I myself really enjoy the idea of running the risk of what people say you shouldn't do because conventional wisdom says this will kill people's engagement with your story. So I like it when people take risks. Uh, I just wanted to know exactly why you went that particular route, and that's something that I feel that for really any author, if you want to do something that goes against the rules of what other like traditionally published authors say and what agents and publishers are like, never do this, this will kill your story. And there's a lot of things I myself that I hate with it within like when it comes to certain tropes. You can still make something that sounds like breaking conventional wisdom. You can take something that sounds like a horrible trope, and if you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, you can turn something on its head and make conventional wisdom turn in your favor. So that's why I wanted to know that. My next question I have is, how did you go about the world building?
I went around the world building by kind of just looking up a load of history, looking up different fantasy themes and concepts, and just kind of like weaving it together in a way that it could like make sense. Like the Obsidian Archives takes place within the span of like 1,000 years. And I'm kind of thinking, okay, so how would a game of like Sid Meier's Civilization go if like one or two or maybe like three of the factions kind of played really, really dirty, you know?
Okay. And what about also with Obsidia itself? There's a history there that that you go into a little bit more detail with the book. What what were you drawing on to kind of create this particular this particular kingdom?
Okay, so it's a mixture of different things, but I think the best way to describe it is: have any of you seen Starship Troopers?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so the very, very interesting thing about Starship Troopers was the person that wrote it was like this was a time when people wrote sci-fi or political sci-fi. Sometimes what they like to do is they take a pre-existing ideology and they commit all kinds of Frankenstein surgery on it to make it unlike the others and see how well it stands on itself. Obsidia, like in like modern era, is basically a meritocratic fascist state. But the irony is, compared to like a lot of others in actual contemporary history, they are probably the most like non-racist factions in like their actual universe. If anything, like they're incredibly xenophilic. They want to invite
Hmm.
everyone that could provide something to the table, kind of like the Covenant from like Halo. If you like pay attention to like some of the designs of the soldiers, they had like features that implies that there was a lot of there's a lot of like mixes between the different like fancy races to basically like power themselves up to do different tasks that some of the more mono race factions struggle with. It's kind of like an infinitely growing utility belt.
Hmm.
So with Starship Troopers, even though like they took influence from a lot of like you know they do a lot of like World War II propaganda and they do a lot of references, but if you actually pay attention to the casting in the movie, it is like the biggest like kumbaya, everyone's equal in the eyes of the military kind of deal, and there's something like deeply wholesome about it.
Hmm. Okay. I like that, and as you say that, there's, as you said, like if you're paying attention, there are those little details throughout the book that that show that show that I like. My go-to word would be cosmopolitan, but I don't know if cosmopolitan is exactly the right word. Um,
I always think
especially once
Cosmopolitan
Neon
has
shows up on the
some.
scene.
Yeah, I think Cosmopolitan kind of has some extra like baggage than like a singular definition, so it might be a little too bundled.
Hmm.
But I do know what you mean. I have been trying to look up a word to like describe it. I think Brazilian integralism probably is a lot closer to Obsidia than any of the others. I think
Okay.
I think they also have like a religious aspect and kind of like a Church of England kind of deal. The only access through God is through the king or the queen, so to speak.
Hmm. And actually, I want to quickly tackle that. Your use of religion in the story, to me, was really interesting, because I've seen loads of different takes on, for instance, Catholicism from like throughout history, but then also how it's, for instance, bastardized and used in anime. Let's just be honest. Japan loves Catholicism and has no idea what they're doing with it. But then there's also a lot of other fantasy stories that like the Inquisition side of Catholicism, or they like the apocryphal side of Catholicism, and then go rolling with it. And so that was kind of where I was trying, that was where I was coming from at first, to try to understand the references to God, the way that the church works, in your story, but it's not quite like that. How did you approach the implementation of religion and the organization of the church that Melehan has to work with in his
Um,
story?
Before I continue, I think your videos slowly begin to deteriorate.
Oh, lovely.
It's like, oh, it's like every time I speak, the pixels grow.
Okay,
How
that's
many
weird.
mil- how many megabits per second you using, my dude?
Let's have a look here.
I usually do streaming in like HEVC or whatever they call it.
Hmm.
It's like the second best one, only second to AV1, which I don't have the GPU for.
So if I pop this on down, let's see what that does. Might take a moment for it to.
Okay. You you wanted me to answer the question about the church, right?
Yeah, because it was interesting for me reading it, because like I said, I'm so used to other people when they bring up the church, it's usually how can I bastardize Catholicism and utilize it for my story, but that's not exactly the vibe that I got while reading
Well,
your book.
well, the thing is, in the Obsidian Archives, deep to its core, it understands the importance of spirituality and religion, and like man's relationship with either God or the universe. And I think too many like modern day writers prefer to like kind of like just like dunk on um dogma and on like organized like religion. And although it's like, fun and games, I feel like it's incredibly like one dimensional. I feel like the way I tell the story is there's two competing interpretations of how faith is applied, and it's more about seeing like who wins. And to be honest, like as much as like Osmolo is like a villain, like his reasoning for going after Milan isn't without merit. Like conventional morality would say this Milan guy is like mega super villain. I need to stop him. Like this isn't. It's a bit of a no-brainer from like an outsider, like looking in without like favoritism.
Mm, yeah.
Second, when it comes to the church, you have to understand this isn't like our church. This is like, what if Christianity wasn't just the right religion, but they actually had direct communication with heaven, and they're literally carrying like foot orders, etc. Like that puts it in a whole different philosophical ballpark, I think.
Oh yeah, it absolutely does. uh I just quickly deviate to one of my stories. One of the things I absolutely love doing with my book Bleed Steam and Steel was taking a character who's like, God, the gods don't exist, and then giving her an experience where the gods are real, and guess what? They're speaking to you and they want you to do something. She's like, oh no. Like
Oh, that's like the worst thing. Like that's like Jonah and the whale.
mm-hmm. I don't
Very
want to go to
unfortunate.
Nineveh. Which again, historian speaking right here. As a fun quick aside, if anyone wants to know why Jonah didn't want to go to Nineveh, because it's actually not really spelled out in the Bible, it's because if he had gone to Nineveh and the Assyrians didn't like him, he would have been murdered in a very brutal way, and then his body would have been used to build buildings, because the Assyrians liked making buildings with the corpses of their dead enemies. Highly unsanitary, and these
Yeah, I
people
was gonna
lived in
say
it.
unhygienic. Absolutely.
Also, the original Hanging Gardens were not in Babylon, they were in Nineveh, and they were called the Hanging Gardens because the decor was all the corpses that they hung up.
That is bleak.
Yeah. So, fun, just a little quick aside. If you want to know why Jonah didn't want to go to Nineveh, that's the reason why. The Bible omitted that. All right, so Um, my my next question that I have for you uh, starts kind of shifting gears a little bit more towards medium for sharing your story. And for anyone else who's got more questions about the Obsidian archives, please put them into the chat, or go check out the channel.
Oh, absolutely. I highly recommend that.
Loads of great videos. We've got great shorts, but the story is up. At least a good portion of the story thus far is up on the channel, and you can watch it, and it's good.
You have to like
I'm
scroll
not
all the way to the
exaggerating. It is
bottom.
good.
You have to go to the start. It's called The Imp and the Prince. It is the darkest story like amongst like all the videos.
Hmm. Yeah, that is a pretty good. That was a good dark introduction, and I hope that one day your book does get in the hands of other people, because what you've added on to what's already up on YouTube for people to watch is just like chef's kiss, in my opinion. It, like if you like what you see in The Imp and the Prince, you're going to enjoy the rest of the story. You're especially going to love it whenever you get the book in your hands. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking by it. um, but to shift gears a little bit again from story on over to medium, um, can you explain to us why you started telling your story through videos and through animatics? Uh, like what prompted you to go this particular route rather than someone like me who was like, I'm going to go write a book?
I started off on The Imp and the Prince as like an animatic with my friend Jacob. Basically, he would do the grayscale line art, and I would like do all the coloring in to save budget. And basically, somewhere along the line, when we like found out our cast and everything, we just decided we were just going to flesh out like a whole universe and like not get bogged down with like singular story arcs per se, since there's a lot that happens in a lifetime, and there's an even bigger lot that happens in the history like of like society and stuff. So it's all just documentation, you know.
Okay, I like that. And that starts leading me a little bit more into into the other questions I have. So, as a bit of a preamble to this, a lot of the people who routinely watch us here at Camille's Harem are very interested in doing their own animated storytelling. And that's not something that I have much experience in. I love looking at what indie animators do, but I don't have much experience that I can readily draw on. So, could you tell us a little bit about your experience and your process with taking your story and translating it over to animated works?
So there's a lot of networking, a lot of research and pricing, etc. I usually work on a horizontal conveyor belt structure. I usually make the audio tracks myself with the help of some voice actors. And then I ship them off to be paired up with an animator. And then I usually wait a month or two, and then like it's done, and then it's like uploaded. I usually have to like check the specs to make sure it's properly encoded, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the networking is great and everything, but sometimes you could easily like run amok with some very like bad faith people in the indie scene. Like the
Mm-hmm.
problem is a lot. We live in an age now where people have all this like supposed like moral virtue built in, but the reality is it's like they don't really know how to apply it properly. Like they could think a thing is wrong, but the fact that they can't explain why it's wrong only goes to show that they haven't like exactly grown up, if that makes sense.
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up. And and thinking about some bad faith actors, I've run into this myself with trying to get cover art for some of my books, where you find someone who seems like they have a great portfolio, you have a great conversation with them online, and then they don't deliver. How have you, in your process of networking, how have you found those people that you can trust more with your work?
When it comes to like animators and stuff, like don't get me wrong, sometimes you get people that flake, but it's usually for like, good reason or whatever. I usually the people that end up working for me usually like cross like a acceptability threshold before they usually like come in anyway. So it's like usually like the problem resolves itself before it begins.
Okay. So
Um, I think
so you might then oh, please continue on with your idea and then I'll follow up.
yeah, there was like one thing. There was this producer. I can't like name names or whatever, but like
Mm-hmm.
basically, like I was meant to speak to them like 3 years like after like a certain point, but they never really got back to me, and that was a bit frustrating, a bit of a bummer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, say, and I do appreciate not calling people out. Like I've had my grievances with some artists, and
I
even with
make
a
it a
and
personal
even with the
policy
publisher.
not to like name names when it comes to this shit. I see too many people just name names, and it goes back to the problem is if you're the kind of person that names names, like the tragedy is like you can't really work in the industry once you do that. If you're the
Yes.
kind of person that could express that they have a problem, but like, have the integrity not to like soil their chances at success, like it means you're a team player. It means you know what's what, etc.
Yes, I absolutely concur with you on that. One of my experiences with one of my experiences was actually with a publisher, and even though we went our separate ways, and it wasn't completely amicably, there was some bad blood. In our parting, I've never named them just because I know why there was that problem. And even though I don't agree with how things turned out between us, I want that person and their company to do well, because that lifts everyone if they do. So it would be a jerk move on my part to to drag someone through the mud when they have a chance to still succeed and become better.
For reals.
Yeah, and so that's something for everyone who is watching this. I think you could uh, you can add more if you like to this, Sam. But if you're going to get more into this independent sphere of creation, networking absolutely essential. But as you network, please be courteous and respectful, even if people aren't necessarily courteous and respectful towards you. It has to start with you and it has to end with you. And have standards for what you're looking for with other people's work and their work ethic. If even if their artwork seems really amazing, but it doesn't quite, but their work ethic doesn't fit you and your schedule, then that's okay. Don't try to force something to work where it might not work. Again, show gratitude, show respect, and then move on if you need to. Would you say that those are some good keys for working in the industry?
Yeah.
All right. Um, there was there actually was there was a follow up question actually that I had as far as your process goes. Um, Again, because a lot of people here have actually shared with us some of the work that they've done with scripts and the likes. Do you work primarily just with the script, or do you also happen to have like a storyboard that you submit once you start getting going?
I usually
Either
write
that
a
you already share
manif-
with your voice actors, or
I usually write the script first, then I make an audio track, then I make a manifest, and I might throw in some like key shots that like need to be included, and some like character designs, and then it's pretty much at the mercy of the animator, and I usually have to be like updated like once every like 2 weeks or whatever.
okay, that's good. Uh, and again, for for anyone who's checking in on this or looking for advice, do not hound your artists every day or every other day. Please do not do that. Give artists breathing room, but check up on them. Excuse me. All right. Then another question I have for you: what, beyond what we've just discussed, what other tips would you share with aspiring creators? And it can be anything from writing to dealing with people in the industry, what have you. What are some tips that you feel like this is what might really help you out?
I'd say the number one thing is probably money and connections. I'm sorry, I mean, unless you are like a one-man super horse that has like pirated software. Not that I would ever endorse such like illicit behavior. Not that, you was to get yourself like a free After Effects and a free Adobe Animate and a free Photoshop or whatever. Or seriously, I don't get it. You ever go on YouTube and it's like you're watching someone talk about a thing and they think that they're like mega super lawyer by just saying not in front of everything. That's like, you do know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, but yeah, as I'm saying, like either you become an island or you have money and connections. Those are like the two ways you could get something like substantial off the ground, basically. And know-how. Like you need to know how to put it together, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I see like some rich people in Hollywood like don't know how to operate a camera and they like blow Lord knows how much money on like Cool Cat Saves the Kids or something.
Yes. Yes. I agree with that. The connections, the money combined with the know-how make it work. This is one of the biggest problems with Hollywood right now. You have a bunch of producers who are just the money people who have little to no experience in actual creative processes, and they don't understand the business. But what was that?
Have you seen Succession?
I have not seen Succession. No.
Okay, without any spoilers, imagine this. Okay, you have a show that's meant to be about a medium mogul family. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and yet out of like 5 seasons, it's only like one of them, like near the tail end, that like you actually see one of the characters actually enter an actual movie lot. Literally 5 seasons with no studio or movie lot. Are you kidding me? Like that's how disconnected they are. It is literally them trading pieces of like companies and no one knows what any of it does.
Yeah. Wow. I did not know that it took him that long. My sister has seen the show and she recommended it to me, but I've just never sat down to watch it. That is fascinating and horribly on point.
It's very ironic.
So like if people want to know, for instance, why like Warner Brothers is crumbling in terms of its animation division, it's because David Zaslav doesn't know animation and he doesn't care. He never has. And probably if anyone bothered digging into his background, he probably hates it, which is one of the reasons why he's totally fine with getting rid of the Looney Tunes.
If you want me to like also comment, I think like one of the producers behind, you know what I was gonna say, but then I'm like, I might need that deal later, so never mind.
Okay. Yeah, don't sabotage yourself.
Yeah, I'll say this. I'll say this. All right, just because a show gets cancelled doesn't mean that like the show itself wasn't like successful on like a valid metric.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes corpo BS happens.
That is true. Just look at Firefly.
Or Inside Job. I really miss Inside Job. That was like really good.
Yeah. Or yeah, Tyler, thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, I used the footage from when I did the review for the Obsidian Archives and forgot that there was still a blip of Gaslight District in there because I made a comparison to Gaslight District when I first talked about the Obsidian Archives. Um,
Yeah, there's a like a link in the description. It's like the first one. You click that, it'll take you to a video, but that video is connected to the channel. So if you click on the channel, you could easily like get access. It's all good.
yeah. And again, definitely, please go check out the Obsidian Archives if you haven't already done so. I've seen that Hannah and Mimic have expressed some interest. Please take the time to go check it out. It is worth it. The shorts are definitely for a great laugh, and then the main storyline is just an intense piece and absolutely worth it. But the first time that I actually checked out your channel, I meant to have it on kind of as like a little background noise, to be like, okay, I'm working. I began paying attention to the story and I just stopped. And I was like, okay, this is an interesting story. I gotta listen to the whole thing now.
Yeah, the anime like storytelling is like very detailed and like nuanced. Like it's a show that like YouTube as an algorithm prefers like the comedy shorts. Because don't get me wrong, I like writing a bit of comedy, but it's also kind of like the real grit and teeth is definitely like the Imp and the Prince and Return of the Drakes and the Longest Feud. Like those have like the actual like dramatic inflections and like those moments that really ground something, you know?
Yeah. And that actually, again, leads me a little bit into wanting to know more about the process that you've utilized. Um, why? So, as you said, the algorithm likes the comedic shorts, but what really got you into doing those comedic shorts? Because if it were me, I'm just gonna say if it were me, I'd just plow ahead with the story because that's just kind of who I am as a person. Why did you make that not a switch over, but why did you incorporate more of the shorts?
I think it started when I did a little jab at Game of Thrones, where it was like Game of Thrones lore versus Obsidian Archives lore, and literally the joke was it was just incest between the Targaryens, while like Obsidian Archives is just there like with back to back like shots of like war crimes taking place.
Mm-hmm.
um with
Yep.
like Ace Combat music in the background, because Ace Combat has some of the best storytelling for like a game about people driving in little fighter jets.
Yes.
um but no, actually, to be fair, I think I really got into it when I got involved with there was like an internet meme person. They don't really make videos anymore, but they were very popular about 3 years ago, called Crackback, where they would literally just take really poorly like rendered video footage and they would add like random like mobile ringtones and just like sound effects, and it sounds like very strange. And they have like a picture of the uh-oh stinky monkey on like the do you remember uh-oh stinky?
Vaguely. I think I came across it because my youngest sister showed it to me. It was not something I went looking for.
I like they used to do this thing. They would take footage from Breaking Bad, and then they would have Walter White like react to some sort of modern trend that was going on, and they would just like play the footage in a way that it contextually makes sense to what's going on. Like Walter White's like, "Oh my god, this is the best movie ever," and he's talking about Morbius, and he's like trying to go and see Morbius with his son, but then his son's like, "No, Dad, you do know he doesn't actually say it's Morbid time, right?" And like Walter White gets so angry that he literally walks out the car, sets it on fire, and like just makes the car explode with his son in it, just because he didn't like Morbius. It's just so stupid, but it's funny, and like they have the text to speech, and it all sounds like the characters.
That's awesome. I gotta go find that. Well, I am right now.
Hannah,
I am right now
Hannah.
pulling that up for to watch later.
Okay, all right. Listen, Hannah. You're asking about writing advice. Uh, I don't know if it'll be a good fit for you, but usually what I do, I like to avoid exposition as much as possible. Have every word of dialogue be as if the person in the room is actually would be saying what they are saying when they speak to someone. Because exposition is usually what a character says when they're technically only trying to inform the viewer, but not the actual character in the room.
Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna build a little bit on that because taking that advice to heart also sometimes for me kind of creates a bit of a trap. Like you can find this in some of my stories, and where my characters really start sounding and feeling very authentic because they're just having a very natural flowing conversation. Because in my personal life, the moment that I start getting into conversations with people, those conversations usually tend to go for hours unless something stops us. And so I have to stop myself. And sometimes that leads to overly long scenes where characters are talking. It sounds and looks great, but it's not advancing the plot any. So you got to find that balance of we want to progress the scene and progress the plot, but the characters need to act normally. And that takes time. That takes effort to figure out how to blend those two needs together to have characters talk and interact in a way that's natural for them within the story without being like me and writing an hours long conversation. um so to start wrapping up, Sam, because I know again you are up very, very late, and thank you so much for staying up later with us
Oh,
for
it's been a
this.
pleasure, man.
One of the reasons why I really wanted to talk to you about like with the shorts and why you went that way is because there was a conversation between Daniel Green and Brandon Sanderson now about like a year ago where they were talking about that authors need to start getting more creative with how they get their stories out there. And they floated the idea of doing animatics, getting into indie animation, but these two guys have never actually been a part of any of that. They never have. They're way more in the realm of traditional publishing. And so I want and since you are now in the process of creating your own book series, you're right now querying it and everything, and you're gaining an audience through doing what you have been on YouTube. I want to know, do you feel like what you've done, although it takes a significant investment of time, knowledge, and money, do you feel like this could be a viable route for some people to take to try to get their stories out there, or is this or is this way more uh the exception than a possible rule?
I think my situation is a bit like unique. It's a situation of having a war chest that is of a very particular size, so it's not like too big or too small. It's like trying to like fit what can like last within the time frame you need it to last. But I say to anyone that's like actually out there trying to make it big with like story writing, now I've yet to like do this myself, but I think maybe the best route might be Campfire, to be honest. Just get like a Campfire account, like write up your manuscript, make sure it's all spelt correctly. I mean, Grammarly, I think there are like Grammarly clones out there that you could use that are probably free-ish, just to like make sure that your grammar's correct. Once that's all like done and dusted,
Mm-hmm.
you should be able to just go in, make your manuscript, and like instantly like online like publish it. With that said, however, um, I'm wondering if it's like a very dense writer to reader ratio. Because for all we know, like there could be a lot of people that love writing stories in there, and there could be very little people actually splurging to actually read the damn book. You know?
Yeah. And sorry. Real quick, to answer Arts's question, Campfire is a writing service, and I'll actually real quick for anyone who wishes to check it out, I will share a link for you guys should you wish to check it out. That it's a service that allows you to organize your writing, to get it out there, and you can invite other people in to have a look at your work. So it's there was a service that one of my cousins introduced me to called Royal Roads. Campfire's like Royal Roads, but with way more bells and whistles to it. Because Royal Roads is pretty bare bones. But say thank you for answering that, because that's something that I myself been very that I've been very curious about, because that with our access to so many different services that we can now get our stories out there, whether it be through Campfire, through Royal Roads, through AO3, through YouTube, fanfiction.net, indie publishing through Amazon, or through other services. There's so many ways to get stories out there, but everyone else knows this, and now there's a veritable glut of stories. Some well written, others absolutely awful. And I've been trying to figure out how other creators might be able to find a way to kind of give themselves that little leg up that could get them way more attention and give them a fighting chance to have their story recognized and received by audiences. And so that's why I was asking that, because I feel like animation can play a role in that, but you kind of have to know where to apply it. All right. So let's see here. I believe I haven't seen any other questions directly for you. Sam, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us before we let you go and you can finally catch some Z's?
I'd say check out the channel, the Obsidian Archives. We have a new video coming out later Saturday, about like 5 p.m. EST, 10 p.m. GMT. It is a nice, delightful romp with our favorite character, D, and a new Lord character that might be very familiar to some of you who's spent any time on YouTube. That's all I could say on the matter.
If you check out the thumbnail, and you have spent some time on YouTube, you will probably recognize it. Say the it's quite stunning.
Truly astounding. Right. Is that your cat in the background?
Yes. You can hear her. That'd be Daisy. She's trying to get through the office door. Say the chonker that I was telling you about before we got going. She's right now sleeping next to me. And Daisy's trying to get in. Daisy, you're too loud. All right. So I think I already asked. Yeah, if there's anything else you want to share. Sam, thank you so much for being here with us, for answering all my questions.
Thank you so much. Indeed, yeah. Like, you're welcome, man. Like, it's been a real pleasure being here. I hope things go better for you with the new publishers.
Well, if I can get new publishers, that'd be amazing. But that will require me to do just like you're doing and start querying a book. I am right now sitting on an idea. I actually just last night finished writing up the barest of outlines for something where I'm like, I want to do this, but I also don't want to do this at the same time, because this could be so bad. Because when you do traditional publishing, once you're known for something, you're locked into that. I'm like, do I really want to be locked into a story that's naughty and raunchy? Do I really want that to be my legacy?
I mean, I tell you this, I would not mind being like locked into doing Obsidian Archives.
Mm-hmm. No, say I can tell your love and your passion is right there, and and it go and I'll say this for anyone who is interested in really taking it, like if you're just creating and writing for your own fun and amusement, amazing, do it. Writing and creating is such a beautiful and ennobling journey for each person who goes down it. But if you want to want to try to actually get into the industry, whether indie or traditional, like make sure that whatever work you're submitting is something that you're like, I want to be known for this. I love this work. And even if it never gets picked up, your heart and your passion is in it, and it's something that you can stand by and be proud of. That's my advice. All right. Sam, before we absolutely let you go, what would Dee's parting words be? And then you can go get rest.
I legally cannot say what Dee would say in this regard. He would be breaking all the terms of service, straight up.
Yeah, and if anyone wishes to know why I'm laughing about this and why Sam would say that, check out the Obsidian Archives, especially check out the shorts. You will learn very quickly.
Have a good one, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here with us. This was a pleasure.
Cheers.
Ciao. Have a good night. All right. And for the rest of us, we can continue on. I'm gonna swap on over to some Elden Ring footage right here. And Mimic, there was something that I saw. Then be fat in words. Not really. I think companies like Warner Brothers and Disney need like a new team and CEO. Amen. The people running these companies are old enough to be my grandparents at this point. No offense. I agree with you. I 100% agree. We need people of now. I think that producers need to old producers need to get out of the way if they want to make money, invest wisely, and let younger folks take the reins. As much as I love someone, for instance, like Steven Spielberg needs to also be able to just step aside and let other people do their work. And he can continue to be an ideas guy, be there on the ground. He can be an involved producer, and I think he'd be the kind of producer that people love to see there on the scene. But yeah, after a certain point, people need to know when to bow out. Yeah, Steven did his thing. Let others get their 5 minutes. Yes, amen. And again, I still actually really like Steven Spielberg, even in his later years now, because he has given us some amazing ideas and some amazing productions even now. But I feel like he definitely needs to be one of those guys who's behind the camera more in a managerial position and role rather than as a director and being firmly in control. ISO, yes, please do check out, and everyone else, please check out the Obsidian Archives. Give Sam and his project some love. Get to know the community a little bit on over there. It was an amazing find to have a chance for him. He's actually the one who reached out to me a while back and was like, "Hey, I got a story. I want you to check it on out." And it was a very pleasant surprise to get to know the Obsidian Archives. And I feel spoiled because I've had the chance to read his manuscript for his book, which feels unfair to talk about because I know it's not in the hands of other people, which is why I hope that he has the chance to get it published. Meg says, and Hayao Miyazaki is still kicking butt too. I even like that gives newer artists and talents a chance as well. Yeah, Miyazaki's an interesting character because he's an absolute micromanager on some levels, but at the same time, like, he loves his craft and he wants what's best for his company and for storytelling. And he has given opportunities to so many creators, even when he hasn't agreed with them, which is good. Like, you don't always have to agree with other people, but if you give them a chance, that's what matters. That's what's important. ISO says, I hope you'll have me on once I get my animations out there. Oh, absolutely. Now I can probably be like, I knew this guy. I knew this guy from way back when. I believed in him. He's amazing. I agree, Arts, and an interview with ISO would be interesting. And I'm actually in the works to set up another interview in the future. It's still going to take a little bit of time because this particular author and independent film producer as well, or not exactly producer, but she's written for an independent film before. Say I really want to get Deb Dalton onto the channel to talk about her experience in indie production with Hollywood and with writing. And I also need to get a review out for her first book, which is a fantasy novel that I've been interested in reading. So that I can't promise for when that interview will happen, but that's something I definitely want to get done and give you guys the chance to get to know her and her story, and also hear from her because she's got some real insights. Now then, so some things I want to talk about before we kind of shift gears a little bit, because hey, we got news about Deltarune, and I want to talk a little bit about that. But before we get there, I want to talk a little bit about one of the things that Sam brought up, where I was like, what's your advice? And his advice was like, yeah, you need networking and you need money and you need know-how. The answer to all of that is yes. And that's something that I know is very scary and very frustrating, and potentially even dissuading for a lot of creators. Because, I mean, let's face it, most of us don't have a large war chest to start to start going into production. Yes, that art's off-putting. Yeah, it like that is incredibly daunting, off-putting, frustrating, but it's the reality. And yes, it costs money to make money. This would be my advice for anyone who wishes to really pursue their craft, who has a show in mind, a book in mind, a movie in mind. It's going to take loads of effort and time. It's also going to and it's going to take an investment not just of time and of resources, but yeah, of money. So what I would suggest you do is this, is that you do what you can without having to pay anything just yet. Like before you start coming up with budgets and all this stuff, and really like pursuing networking with the goal in mind of creating your dream story. What I want you to do is I want you Art says, not so Mimic, I currently have 3 bags of goldfish at the ready. Oh man, you're living the life there, Arts. Woo! What I would suggest is this, is that you do what you can with what you currently have. And take the time to educate yourself in what is needed to make your story a reality. And then start budgeting, which, here's the thing, I know that for a lot of people, they're like, man, budgeting is so hard. I don't know if I can make this work. But you need to do that. you need to take an accounting of what you have available in terms of resources and of money, and then start making plans. Start saving up money. It's difficult. It absolutely is. I'm not going to say, "Oh, it's easy." And if you follow my guide here, you can make it happen for you. No, because everyone's individual living conditions are just that. They're individual. It's unique. And so it like what works for me or for Sam might not work for you. But one thing that I know that does work is budgeting. You need to look at what you have and what you can afford to spend on investing in your projects and in your passions. And this does require that we all have jobs. I just started up my new job this week. Woohoo! And I'm happy that I have, because this now means that I can replenish my own coffers for my future projects. I was very lucky to have circumstances that allowed me to save money while I was teaching. And for 4 years as a teacher, I saved and saved and saved, which gave me the opportunity to do what I have in terms of investing in my stories, but then also having the chance to travel with friends, which is something that I also want to talk about, like in a future video sometime, about how travel can be really good for our creative process, but also don't break the bank. Well, thank you, Arts. You can loan me some goldfish. Actually, Arts, I also have I don't have 3 bags of goldfish. I've got 2. So you're better off than I am right now. But coming back to it, you need to have a job, and you need to work on setting aside money to invest in your creative endeavors. And sometimes that means not buying stuff or getting involved in stuff that we would otherwise really want to do. So that means, like, for instance, I have tried my best now for months to cut out eating out. Like, I try to not eat out. That's not something that I even budget for. Because I'm like, okay, nope. That's expensive. And I need money for my projects. So I'm not going to eat out anymore. Eat at home. Use what I got at home. Pay for it. Pay for what I need. Which, yeah, let's also just be honest. Things are getting expensive. let's just accept that reality, and that's so hard on so many of us. But you can, in time, come to learn what you can do without, and don't skimp on your health. Please do not skimp out on your health. That will only come to bite you in the long run. You need to take proper care of yourself. You can take proper care of yourself without breaking the bank. And you can have fun without breaking the bank as well. You have to learn what you can do with the means that you have, save up money, and as you've saved up money, you can then start tackling the projects that you wish to take on. And to that end, I can already tell you this: like, when you go into animation is going to be expensive. If you're just simply going into publishing, there are ways to not waste your money on publishing. For one thing, looking into editors and the likes, please, rather than spending tons of money on editors, please use the resources that we've provided to you in terms of, like, manpower from Camille's Harem. There are not only just the members of Camille's Harem, but there's also the people who follow us who would be happy to read your story. Talk with other people. Like, that's why our Discord is there, is to provide those opportunities for people to connect, so that way you can rely on the resources of others. You can rely on their talents, and they can really help you out. How about Mr. Autocorrect, Lars? Are you talking about me using autocorrect or using autocorrect yourself? Man, autocorrect. I hate ducking autocorrect. Meg says, well, jokes on you, Arts. I just devoured 8 small packets of cookies the other day, and I'm married to my husband and current sugar daddy, Mr. Diabetes. So take that. I hope Mr. Diabetes takes care of you. Oh, Mimic. Thank you for that. Thank you for the laugh. And Arts, if I ever run out of goldfish, I hope that I can take you up on that offer of getting goldfish without extra charge. I am willing to help pay interest over the long run, just as long as it's not 25% interest, because that's just predatory. But yeah, to bring it into short, if you want to make it in this industry, please learn how to budget. You can do it. And there are some amazing things that you can do on a budget. And in one of the videos that I've been wanting to do for a little while, I have a segment about indie animation where I bring up, like, hey, there are times where you're not able, like, on our own, you can't be like Glitch Productions. You need the infrastructure and the funding of a Glitch Productions to be Glitch Productions. Let's be honest. However, that again should not discourage you, because even if you can't be like Glitch or like other people, like VisiPop, you can still sorry, excuse me, guys, my cough is really doing me in tonight. You can still deliver your story in a different way. Where so let me not be so vague. Let's say that and actually this is something I've really wanted to do. I really want to do an animated short in the style of Don Bluth for a story that I have in mind, a story called Misventures, and I want to recapture that magic and beauty of something like The Secret of Nim. I want that. However, I know that would be incredibly expensive, and I don't have the necessary resources to make that happen. However, I can still tell that story with the artwork that I can envision. What I need to do is I then need to work with some artists to either create a storyboard or a comic series or a beautiful splash panel or something like that communicates those characters and a part of that story, and then I can write it out. There are ways that you can still tell your story with artwork without having to invest big money into animation. And sometimes, this is one of the reasons why I was talking to Sam, the curator from the Obsidian Archives, about what he was doing with his shorts, was because if there is a way to grab people's attention with artwork or with shorts or with animatics or with voice acting, something similar to I believe it's Toasted Loaves is the channel, does with a lot of manga-esque comic strips. They just simply have very simple art and then just have a bunch of voiceovers over it that have nothing to do with the image that you're looking at. And that can get people's attention and provide you, if it does well enough, with a source of income that you can then use to invest in either making more of the same or potentially building up to doing a short animation and then seeing what happens. This then comes back around again to budgeting. And so one of the things that I want to do, and this is a very long-term project, but I want to use Misventures as a little comic series that then allows me to kind of accrue, hopefully, some followers, some interest, maybe even some money that I could then invest into potentially creating a short animation that, even if it doesn't return on investment, I can say, I did it. Hooray! And I didn't have to go into debt to make it. There's the dream. You can do the exact same. So please, that's all of this, all of that rambling to say what Sam said about the fact that you need money, you need networking is very, very true. But please do not let that discourage you. Do not let that put you off from chasing your dream. Your dream might just then be harder to realize and require more work. But that doesn't mean that it isn't worth it and that you can't make it happen. So as ISO says right here, I've actually been planning this for a while. Before I get started animating my actual stories, I had a project plan to help me improve my animation abilities. That's really, really good. And learn as you go. And he was talking about like how, yeah, there's a bunch of people online that will have like their little videos where you, if you're paying attention, you realize that they're omitting some of the important details. And that's really true, and some of the costs. But that doesn't mean that you can't find excellent information and guides out there that will help you out with learning the skills that you need to make your story come about. Whether you are doing comics, manga, animation, voice acting, etc., you can still learn how to make the dream work. Is very possible. And it's something that I myself also will need to do more of because I'm very interested and I want to do it. Art says, I can appreciate that. So I love the planning phase of developing stories. Yeah, the planning phase is a lot of fun. The getting down to business phase for me is the most fun. Like the planning can be fun sometimes, but I want to get into the nuts and bolts. I want to tell my story. My hardest thing, I don't know if I've actually said this before. My hardest, my greatest block as an author when it comes to telling stories is that I really, really want to tell my story. Once I've told my story, I move on. I'm kind of like the way that Luz Theron describes the great creator in the Wheel of Time, how the creator just creates a world and then moves on. That's kind of how I am. Once I've told a story, I then move on to the next story, which is why it's so hard for me to edit. Because I'm like, okay, I've already told my story. I now want to move on to the next thing. But that's a bad way of approaching storytelling on my part, because my first draft, is never the best variation of my story. I'm especially learning that right now with one of my newest books that I'm writing. I'm basically tossing out the entire first draft yet again for a story because it's just it's so bad, and so it's back to the drawing board. I was working on that last night. Isa says it's like an AMV, but for indie folk, it's like a short story where I animate the adventures of one guy as he explores the world, and I play music over it. I was thinking of calling it Wanderlust. Ooh, well, very nice. Wanderlust is such a great term. TV Cat says, I would like to ask a question that I never got to ask from the previous stream about getting inspiration from your real life. What if you don't have anything interesting in your life to turn into a story? So, TV Count, and then Hannah, I'm going to get to your question. TV Count, here's something that I'm going to tell you that I had to learn myself. We don't realize how interesting our own life is until we hear it from other people. Like, I personally think that a lot of my own life is very boring, and some of the like stories that I tell, like a little bit of a roll to my eyes. I'm like, yeah, that was a thing that happened. Others are like, what? That actually happened? That's insane. That's cool. That's crazy. And I'm like, that's just normal life. That's nothing to write home about. For other people, it's fascinating. It's interesting. What I would recommend to you, TV account, is that the things that happen in your life might not seem all that impressive or interesting to you, or maybe even to other people. But there are ways that we can draw inspiration from our own lives that creates interesting stories. A good example of this is a woman that I got to spend some time next to when I was at the Tucson Festival of Books a couple years ago. she she had a book that she was selling about a woman who does the taxes for a vampire. Now, I just finished my taxes. Taxes are boring and annoying. Why would anyone write a story about taxes? But this woman created an interesting story off of her experience. Her job was a tax consultant. And she made it interesting because she realized, oh, there are things about taxes that most people wouldn't know. And what if a vampire was trying to hide their identity by covering up illegally, but also semi-legally, all of the stuff that they have? They would need a tax consultant. And so that's the story that she wrote, and people find it very interesting because it's not something they ever considered before. One of the books I've written, Sandwich Desperados, which, kind of tooting my own horn, but in an ironic way, it is my best reviewed book. 5 out of 5 stars, perfect rating. I don't know why people like this book so much, but Sandwich Desperados is based on my experience working at Jimmy John's, a sandwich shop. Let me be very clear. Jimmy John's by itself is not a very interesting job. If you were to go work for Jimmy John's, the luster of doing sandwiches in 30 seconds leaves within the first week. The most interesting thing that happens after that are some of the colorful customers that come in every now and then. But other than that, it's just another part-time fast food job. However, I ended up turning that into a fun story because I was like, well, what if you did this with sandwich delivery guys? So TV account, what I would say is this, is that when it comes to drawing inspiration from your own life, I would look into things that you know really well, or even things that might really annoy you. You can draw from what annoys you, from the things that you like, from the things you know very well, or even from the mundane experiences, stuff that just seems very everyday. And if you write about it, in a way that seems interesting to you, like if something really annoys you or really doesn't interest you, but you're like, what if that were to be interesting? I hate doing chores. What if I made chores interesting? How would that look? I really hate going shopping. But what if shopping became interesting for me? And then you start writing that. Inspiration can come in all different kinds of ways, TV account. You just have to go looking for it a little bit. And if there's not something from your own life that you can immediately draw inspiration from, but you find it easier to draw inspiration from like shows and movies or books that you like, then that's totally fine. No one says that you need to write your life into your story. So I hope that helps to answer your question. And thank you for asking that. Again, connecting us to the previous stream. I'm glad you finally got the chance to ask your question. All right. Coming back now to you, Hannah. You said, hey, I got an interesting question. Is it okay to use my Undertale fan comic script on the campfire site that you linked. Is fan fiction even allowed? Hannah, to my understanding, it is. It is Campfire, I don't believe, restricts your stories. So I would say feel free to use it. And if they say no, we can't use it because Undertale's copyrighted material, even though it's very clear what you're making is something is your own personal fan project, then you'll know. But I'm pretty certain that Campfire will allow you to use their site. I'm going to now take a drink. There we go. Good water. So again, Hannah, thank you for asking that question. Art says, think about what you've witnessed, even if it's the smallest things. A lot of the stuff I wrote in my Chris Desk stories, I take from my own interactions with my siblings. I live in a big family. Yeah, that's really good. And again, sometimes the stuff that we find really mundane, you're like, oh, no one will ever find this interesting, can be very interesting. Say where you draw inspiration from, sometimes it comes from the smallest place that seems insignificant to you, but sometimes that small inspiration is some of the biggest stuff. Art says, let's see here. I says, oh yeah, I really don't think I've got much going on in my life, but people are always interested to hear how I'm a HEMA fencer and a writer. Yeah, and that's really fascinating to a lot of people. Again, we always tend to think that our own lives are way more boring than they probably are. Art says, don't you get excited to tell people about that jerk that gets up on your butt in traffic and how you can describe in such not so lovely terms? What seems like the smallest, most uninteresting can lead to the greatest of stories. Yeah, there are some stories that honestly are born from things that are like, wait, really? Like horror stories that are born from a person looking up at the ceiling and realizing that they are dealing with black mold. Or I've been interested in if I could write a story based on a question that I had of what's at the end of the wash. There's a wash in my neighborhood that I was always interested in knowing where it went, and I finally took the time to go and explore it, and I was like, okay, it's nothing special, but what if it was? And that kind of spawned a whole, like, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe kind of a scenario in my brain. I says, also thank you, Mimic and Arts, for the encouraging words. I really appreciate them a lot. Yes, that's what we're here for helping build each other up. Art says, take a cartoon about the mundane like Rocco's Modern Life and from the 90s. One episode, Rocco has $3 and he reads in the paper that store is selling groceries at 99% off, so naturally hijinks ensue. Yes, I am Omega. The interview is over, but it will be up for you to watch. We had to blaze quickly through it because Sam lives over in the UK, and compared to where I'm at here in Arizona, he was up really, really late. And I'm a night owl, so I can handle it, but not everyone can. And I did not want to have him be up basically to the crack of dawn. And it says, I almost forgot if there's going to be some people critiquing my work on that site. I probably need it. You can invite people to check out your work, Hannah, and they can then provide feedback. And he says, I love Rocco's Modern Life. Such a great show. I miss it. Man, the 90s were bold. The 90s told some great, great stories. From sitcoms to live action television shows to animated features. The 90s were an era that the 90s were a decade that when we look back at them, they feel so confused and unreal. But man, the 90s really had some great things going for them. Yeah, Art says, yeah, the original Doug was so much better than when Disney took it over. That's what I've heard. I've only really experienced Disney's Doug, which had some really cool episodes, especially when I became a teenager. I'm like, Oh my gosh, Doug is now way more applicable. But I have heard that the original Doug is even better and like way not necessarily way darker, but it's way more intense than what Disney made it out to be. And say Beast Wars from the 90s, even though the animation is atrocious compared to today, great storytelling. There's a show. Dang it! Let's hear. There was Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd century, which was a really fun series. Then there was also there was a series based off of a Argentine comic strip, and I'm trying to remember what it was called. It was basically not exactly to say female Batman is the wrong way to go about it, but it had a lot of the Batman noir element to it. It was a story about this young woman who was a science experiment, and she's trying to find her brother and get revenge on the Nazi scientist who experimented on them. And it is great. The animation is gorgeous. It only was around for one season, but it was really, really good. And it was for the long. Yes, Cyber 6. Thank you, Omega. Cyber 6 is great. Holy cow. Definitely worth watching. And it's all up on YouTube. You don't even have to worry about having a subscription to watch it. Art says, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Yes. That was a fun show. I would run home from school to try to catch that on time. Because my elementary school convened late in the day, which meant that we got out late. So that meant that I would miss some of the afternoon cartoons, which was a real pain. But thank goodness for reruns back in the day. Man, my cough tonight is just. I do apologize. I'm like taking all of this Ricola to try to soothe my throat because it's been torn up. MA says, I first heard about the show on TJ's Omega TJ TV. Also, Legends of the Hidden Temple was also really cool. I don't know if I've seen the Legends of the Hidden Temple. Well, it's out of the 90s. It's probably going to be pretty good. There was... this was, though, from the early 2000s. There was a mummy show from the early 2000s that was also really good. Kind of like a slight knockoff of Jackie Chan Adventures meets The Mummy. That was fun. There was also for a time... So there were Street Sharks, and then there was America's attempt at doing their own version of Power Rangers in animated form, but it was with pharaohs and mummies, and I believe it was just called Mummies. That was a fun series. No, Mimic, I don't actually have a cold. No fever. I don't have allergies. It's just once a year I will get hit. I'll get slammed with just a month-long cough. And it just is that way. It comes on all of a sudden, and then when it's gone, it's gone. And you can't tell the difference. It's annoying. Okay, Art says it was a game show. Okay, good game show. Biker Mice from Mars has made a comeback. Ooh. All right. Though we definitely need, like, as much as I love these old shows to have their chance to like kind of come back and get rediscovered. We also need to embrace the new stuff, such as like with Brain Melting, The Amazing Digital Circus, Murder Drones, and the Gaslight District. I really want to make a push for when the Gaslight District when it drops. If the show is good, I've got high hopes that it's good. If it's good, I really want to push it and just be like, we are going to help get this show recognized, because I feel like it's going to be one where the algorithm is going to try to kill it. And because it is a darker story from everything that we've seen so far, it's going to be something that a lot of commentators are actually going to try to kind of push back against, I think, because they're like, oh, it's too edgy, it's too dark for kids. This would never work as a good series. Like, no, let's give it a chance and let's see what it can do. Nick says, does it happen once you get older? This has been a feature of my life now for a long time. I don't know when it really picked up. I think it happened in my early 20s. Is when I realized that I was having a problem. I also, for my time in Germany and Austria, it was actually in Austria, I picked up something that causes my hands to dry out. Just my hands during winter. It never happened before. It makes no sense. I just got to make sure to keep my hands nicely lotioned, and then it's not a problem. All right, Daisy, I'm letting you in. Come in, you little gray kitty. And Daisy then proceeds to start whacking the older fat cat. No, back, honey. Ugh, I got kitties now trying to pull their shenanigans in the office. Tiakan says, I remember seeing a video saying that it might flop. I think it's a virtual celebrity that says this, but I'm not sure. No, I can actually see this. Like, I think that there will be pushback against the Gaslight District because it's so different from what Glitch has done before. It definitely looks way darker. And for people who are used to the Amazing Digital Circus and who were more into the fun shenanigans of Murder Drones and really didn't pay attention to how brutal Murder Drones was, I think that something like the Gaslight District is really kind of coming out of left field for those people. And that can be off-putting. Plus, the character design is really twisted. And so I can understand if there's people who... I can understand if there's people who feel like this might just be going a little bit too far for them. Mr. Kitty always making demands. It's the dawn of the kitties. Yes, it is. That's what they're thinking. They're right now, they're like, Lars, it's dinner time. Please feed us. Omega says Murder Drones had cute drones murdering each other in the first episode. Exactly. Whereas with the Gaslight District, the characters very clearly are pretty messed up. And again, they're just like Mud's design is just woo. Did any of you guys see the little short that that Glitch posted today of Mud trying to assassinate a guy? That we now finally get where two of the shots in the trailer actually come together. Where the one guy gets his brains blown out, it's from Mud shooting him from behind with his gun. And then that's when all the cars explode behind him. Let me see here. I actually pull that up. Let's see here. Gaslight District. So, yeah, Omega saw that. So yeah, let's get to that point actually here in the trailer, just so I can show you guys. So yeah, again, all of this is just super unsettling. I like it though. Thing is that not everyone is strapped in and ready for the macabre. Mud, I just don't like that guy. And I still stand by my theory that I posted in my theory video, that I think that Ken is going to die in this show, because he's being set up as the daddy figure. And I just don't think he's going to survive because of that. There's red flags all waving around this man's cleaved head. There goes the cleaver again. So boom. Okay, so right there, when the one guy gets shot through the head, that's Mud shooting him from behind with a sniper rifle. And then right after Mud has shot him, then that's the scene where he just throws the gun aside and then everything blows up around him. So we now know what all goes together right there. And I bet that's all in the first episode too. Oh boy. This is going to be a wild series. But speaking of wild, Dawn of the Kingdom of the Battle for the Planet of the Kitties, coming to you from Warner Brothers or Disney. Let's switch gears then, and I am going to bring up this beauty. Hold on a second here. All right. Hey, look, we got Toby. We got the annoying dog, Toby Fox, with 4 arms. So, there will definitely be a new Deltarune video coming out soon. But I do quickly want to go over some of the stuff that I've seen here in this trailer. It's nice to finally have a date for when the next chapters are going to be released. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Yes. And we got Chris coming out of the blue. And then going on over to Susie. Liz, a heartfelt journey of humor and friendship. Aww. It's true. It's true. And yes, Chris is all glowy. Yes, they are. I like this little shot right here of Chris kneeling down to help out Susie. Like, this is good. I love the animation is just becoming even smoother. If we want to know why the newest chapters have taken so long to come out, I think it's because Toby really wants to not just have the stuff look blocky, but he wants things to be fluid. And I respect that. TV Count says, I think there's an interesting video on Ruby. It's about the references in Ruby and why they fail. Something about they use the references but understand why they work. It's from H. Boomer Guy. I've heard of that video. I haven't seen it. But we can actually definitely talk about that TV account here in just a moment. Because that is a great point. It's one of the criticisms that can very easily be lobbed at Monty that he used references without really contemplating what he could do with those characters and the parallels that he was hinting at. Except for Team Juniper. He got Team Juniper down. Team Ruby is another issue. Look at them all concerned for Susie. Yes, I hate when companies pass off certain shows or concepts because they don't want to scare the kids. Like, animation is not just for kids, and chances are the kids will most likely love the show. Plus, nothing scares kids more than school, frankly. Yes, 100% true. Honey, leave Daisy alone. Yeah, and here's the thing. I remember when I was a teacher, and like I brought up Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss. And I was like, by the way, none of you should actually be watching this because this is clearly rated R material and you are all under 18. And like half the kids were like, oh, we've already watched it. And then they wanted to they were asking my opinions about Hell of a Boss and Has Been Hotel. And I'm like, I don't mind talking about this, but your parents. Oh boy. So yeah, companies are totally out of tune. Kids are way more desensitized. And that's its own issue, but that means then that you have the opportunity to tell some more mature stories, not feel too bad about it. But there should definitely also be those more innocent and more kid-oriented shows as well. We just need a balance. Oh, okay, TV Cat says it's technically more Miles and Carrie than Monty. Yes, Miles and Carrie definitely have no idea what they're doing when it comes to fairy tale and legend and mythical references, which is why, very quick aside, which is why the episode The Lost Fable, I guarantee that Monty had written it for them, that it was Monty's idea way back in the day, and they happened to have it, and they just added what they needed to based on how they had changed the show, and that effectively the Lost Fable is Monty's story, because everything about that episode is so different from volumes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Insanely different. It feels like old school Ruby. And so, yeah, Miles and Carrie definitely did not write that episode. They can say otherwise. I really don't believe it. Art says, my father brought me to R-rated movies when I was 10, so I'm not surprised when your class are R-rated movie materials. Yeah, and that was actually kind of my own experience, even though my mom is like, no, I absolutely did not do that. I'm like, I watched Braveheart with you. I know what was on the screen. So that story is, I really, really wanted to watch Jurassic Park when it was going to premiere on TV back in the 90s. And so my parents are all like, you can watch it, but the moment that you get scared, you're going into your bedroom and you are not coming out for the rest of the night. And so I was like, I refuse to be scared. And so there were some scary scenes in Jurassic Park for me as a kid, but I was like, I will not be scared. I will not be scared. And I loved Jurassic Park. I loved watching it. After that, my mom was like, oh, you could watch the Jurassic Park. Okay, next movie we're going to watch is The Ghost in the Darkness. Oh my gosh, The Ghost in the Darkness is the reason why I was scared of the dark as a kid. Like the idea that demonic lions were going to come and eat me in the middle of the night. Oh. Yeah, that terrified me as a kid. And then watching The Relic. And then Braveheart. Which Braveheart was great. The Ghost in the Darkness is a great historical drama piece. The Relic is interesting. I'll just say that. TV Count says, oh yeah, I already got that from TV Count. Omega says, my younger brother and I saw Ghost in the Shell standalone complex in the 3rd grade. Oh my gosh. Wow. Arts 94 says, earliest instance of, was that Species 2? Okay, so coming back to this, getting off the tangent, having a look here at this image. So Chris helping out Susie, just exemplifying that this is all about friendship, and as Toby said, it's all about bringing everyone together. The idea is for everyone to be friends at the end of the game, and I've got a quick theory about that I intend to share in a separate video. What I find, though, very interesting, and I'm surprised that more people aren't talking about this, and maybe it's because we've just kind of come to already accept it as is, but saying that Deltarune is Undertale's parallel story is massive. I cannot begin to stress just how massive this confirmation is, because like, I remember I did a video about this years ago now, where I said that the image that Sans has in Undertale about Don't Forget is about these 3 goobers right here. Chris, Susie, and Ralsei. That is about that he has an image of those 3 characters. And that the reason why he does not want to forget is because as he's been dealing with the constant timeline shifting again and again and again and again and again in Undertale, dealing with Flowey and then dealing with you as the player, Sans has seen a lot of bad ends. Sans has seen things go horribly wrong. Why on earth would you want to persist in that horrible circumstance unless it was worth it? Why is it worth it? Because in a world where choices apparently did not matter, Chris, Susie, and Ralsei beat the odds and found a happy ending. And I believe that that is why Sans holds on to that image. So to see this parallel story right here, that confirmation is already letting you know a little bit about what to expect by the end of the game. And that it's going to be massive. It's going to be a gut punch. And that when we see it, I think it might even put Undertale into a slightly different light for us if we're paying attention. So seeing that right there, that is huge. And I don't see enough people talking about it. Nick says, yeah, kids were into all these kinds of stuff. Or kids are into all types of stuff these days. I was the same way a millennium ago. Some kids like learning their ABCs on PBS Kids, and some kids like to cause car accidents in GTA. TV count. Judging from what some videos have said, it was Carrie who did a large chunk of the world building, and Miles did the writing for the stuff in between fights. Yeah, I can see that. And neither of them knew how to actually write good fights. And it shows. Art says, well, Sans is the only character who's essentially the same between the two stories, so he's the connection. Yes. Mimic, these companions... Oh, these not companions. These companies have no idea what being a kid is all about, or they have forgotten what it is like to be a kid and be that young and carefree. Amen. Amen. More people need to try to remember their childhood and still have a bit of that childlike wonder and curiosity and innocence about them. It's possible. And I think more of us need to do that. Yeah, bro is giving those paper trail vibes. It is a Deltarune fan comic. Okay. Yeah, these companions. Yeah, these companions right here. So, going back to these companions and this parallel story to Deltarune. And then being friends with everyone. Oh, look at everyone there. Oh, great. So this looks like it's hard to tell what exactly is all happening here. I feel like this is definitely a shot that was made more for the trailer than it is for the game. That's my personal opinion, because this is probably where all the shops should be. But this is still like a good representation of what Deltarune is all about. And then we get our little callbacks to chapters 1 and 2, which I thought was interesting that most of it is about 1 and 2. But then we get this. I love the Zoot Zoot Riot. Riot! Throw back a bottle of beer. Zoot Zoot Riot. Riot! Shoot off the shoes right here. Bam, bam, bam. Yeah. So I love the mobster vibe that we got going on here and how they're all shooting hearts out of their fingers. I really hope that someone mentions in game about that. Interesting little facts. The HPs don't seem to have really gone up all that much, if at all, right there. So I wonder what that means for us going forward. But I love that we're getting so many more details as well in the different battles. Like Toby's pulling out all the stops. He's getting creative. And I really, really like that. That keeps the game feeling fresh by having each Dark World not only have its own aesthetic, but also have slightly different ways in which the combat plays out. I think that that's a great choice on Toby's part. Omega says, can't wait to see how the weird route sensor screws this up. Ooh, boy. Yeah, the weird route's going to be crazy. Like, I want to know how on earth that continuity plays out, because it's going to diverge so much from whatever. Like, I feel like the weird route, the Stowgrave route, will probably take you on a completely different path by the time that we're on chapter 4. Like, at least in terms of what's happening with the characters. It's going to be wild. Yeah, Toby put his all into this trailer. Yes, he and his team did. And then this right here, so apparently this is a little mini game that Toby said there will be various mini games that you can play depending on your console. I'm not like, okay, that's interesting. I have no idea what to make of any of this, but there it is. Nick says, yay, Deltarune is back, and how appropriate. We're getting a new game, and Undertale itself will turn 10 years old this year, which is insane. I remember when the game first came out. Yeah, it's incredible. The time that has passed between then and now, and in terms of where this story has gone. I don't think that Toby Fox ever thought that his creation would get this big and this noticed. So it's really, really cool. Let me get a quick drink of water right here, and then we shall continue on. Good water. Alrighty. Whoop. And let's see here. Art says those are mouse heads. Okay. Mousy. Yeah, who is watching the background right there? Majora's Mask. And then here we've got Rock Band. This is great actually to see that Rock Band plays some kind of role in this right here. I like how you got popularity. Ralsei's going to teach you how to be popular. Yeah, Ralsei's all about that popularity. And we've got the Lightners playing live, which is cool. And Susie's just drumming away. What I hope to see from this, what I hope to see is that as it begins, Susie just cannot play her part correctly, and so she just was like, screw it, and then just starts bashing on the drums, doing her own thing. I hope that that's the way that it plays out. Chris looking all fancy right there. And Ralsei with the mohawk. Chris on guitar. More desk connections. Yes. Undertale truly became a huge cultural phenomenon, dude. I'm still gagging at the fact that they were able to get Sans on Smash Bros. Exactly. LOL, that's definitely Susie, all right, says Hannah. Oh, yes, it is. And then here we've got this scene right here. So, Arts and I are having a conversation about this, where this could be at. I think after having seen some other people discuss what we see here, I think that what we're going to get, and this is a kind of a little bit of a sneak preview into the video that I'm going to be working on about this trailer, is that what we see in this trailer is a sneak peek of chapter 4, where we will go into the Holiday Manor, but the dark world in there is going to be more like a church and a tower. One person pointed out how in the promotional art there are 2 towers, one that's upright and one that's inverted. And I think that what we're going to get is we're going to get a church-like tower inside of the Holiday Manor. And the reason why I say that is because so let me quickly reorganize. This is what I think is going to happen in chapter 4. We're going to go into the Holiday Manor where Noelle is at. Something bad's going to have happened, very likely with Rudy, and Noelle is going to be freaking out. A new dark world is going to open, And that dark world is, of course, going to involve Jockington and very likely Caddy. And this is significant because we know that Caddy's interested in Noelle. There's a connection there. And Caddy does not like Susie. Susie does not like Caddy. The story of Deltarune is about becoming friends with everyone. And so chapter 4 is going to be about Susie and Caddy really confronting each other. Also, as we see, like, the colors are very muted. It's dark. Remember that from the promotional material that we've gotten months and months back, chapter 4 is going to be happening during a really dark storm. And so I think that will also be reflected in the dark world, that it's very dark, very stormy. It feels like events are reaching a climactic point, but we're not yet there because we still have 3 chapters to go after that. And the reason, and so not only will chapter 4 be ultimately a rescue mission, again, to reconnect with Noelle, to save her from whatever's happening. It will cause Susie and Caddy to confront each other. The actual relationships between Noelle, Caddy, and Jockington are going to come to light, just like it did between Noelle and Birdley. Noelle and Birdley's relationship was very different than what we might have thought back in chapter 1. And we're going to learn that the relationships that Noelle has with those 2 classmates are not what we thought they are. It's going to get challenged. And the setting of the tower is going to be foreshadowing for what's going to happen inside the church. The church will either, my working theory right now is that the church is either the setting for chapter 6 or chapter 7. And we've already seen Toby do this in chapter 2, where he already began foreshadowing whatever is going to happen at the festival by having so much of chapter 2 revolve around a festival. Why do that? I mean, it was a fun aesthetic to have, for sure, but why bother going through all that effort? It's because he wants us to be primed for what he's going to pull off at the festival. Foreshadowing through what's happening in the dark world is an element of the game from chapter 1 to chapter 2 into the future chapters. And so I think that while chapter 4 will happen in the Holiday Manor, it is going to be a foreshadowing of what will happen when we eventually get to the church. Art says, a third thought I had is that's the mayor's office. That's interesting. It'd be interesting if we got to do a Dark Fountain in the mayor's office. Then they have to work together to resolve the differences to save Noelle, potentially. Yeah, I agree with that part, most definitely. That Susie and Caddy are going to have to get along together in order to save Noelle, because wherever Noelle is at is going to be in a dark place. Oop, I pull back. Let's see if I can get that. So there we have the windows, which we will point out look very church-like. And it looks like they're trying to ascend the tower. So again, definitely a tower aesthetic. But I really do think, based off the promotional art where we have seen Noelle in her attic, that most likely the dark world is going to be up in her attic. And on top of that, from the newsletter, some of the monsters that we have the chance to confront look like they're based off of Christmas decorations. So again, kind of cementing that this is very likely going to be happening in the Holiday Manor. Art says that the Dark Fountain reflects the will of the creator. If a tower like this is created, it would reflect the mayor's view of hometown. Very interesting. As if it's a tower and you're looking over it all, it's kind of like how the mayor overlooks everyone else and is so distant from them. We haven't even seen the mayor yet, and everyone acts as if Mayor Holiday is this unapproachable entity. And even for Rudy and for Noelle, Mayor Holiday definitely seems completely like a world away. chapters. There we okay. Here's another reason why I think that this is going to be up in the attic of the Holiday Manor. So all these little fuzzies right here that are destroying the ground behind Susie, they look like little dust mite. They look like little dust balls, very similar to the little spirits from My Neighbor Totoro and Spirited Away, which live in places like attics. And so again, that kind of like further reinforces it for me. Art says she's being built up like this imposing figure like Asgore was at the beginning of Undertale. Yeah, that's a good parallel to draw right there. And there we have the angel lineup. And hey, look, does anyone recognize that star? What does that star look like? I give you guys a moment. Yes, it looks like a save point. Dust bunnies. Well, actually, in the game, we've already met dust bunnies. But yes, more dust bunnies. Yeah, the angel's like a giant save point. And also from the Titans. Some of the Titans also have the exact same look of the save point star. So something is happening. Something like coming back to chapter 1, where everything is in that desolate opening world. Let me pull that up. Hold on a sec here. I got to go into my files. And okay, take. So right here, when we first enter into the Dark World, where we have these eyes, these creepy eyes that in their own way also kind of resemble the Star of Bethlehem. Not the Star of Bethlehem, but seem to have a similarity to the Save Star. Whatever happened in this part of the Dark World, I guarantee was wasted, was torn apart, was rendered dark by whatever happened, very likely with either Gerson or Alvin Boom. And that I think that a lot of the save points, and this could tie really easily into like why the ending is inevitable, because no matter what you do, so long as you play, the ending's going to be what it's going to be. Could very well be that the angel or the Titans or whatever have connections to these stars, and that the only way to prevent the horribleness at the end is just not to play. But again, because there's such an emphasis on the fact that your choices don't matter when it's obvious that they do, that excuse me, that through our choices we will craft a happy ending where it would seem as if it's inevitable for the world to end in darkness, which is just amazing storytelling. And I expect it'll be really emotional. Art says, someone theorized that the Titans are a natural reaction to the imbalance of light and darkness, a natural correction. Oh, that's an interesting theory. That's cool. I'd like to see more built on that. But so yeah, that's so right now those are kind of my thoughts and everything. Excuse me. So with all of that being all said and done, that's effectively with the interview with Sam concluded, and then going over going over the trailer for the newest chapters. that's everything that I had in mind for tonight. So unless you guys have got something else that you really want to talk about, then I think I'm good to start wrapping it up. I know we've only been on here for about 2 hours, but I think you guys can hear from the way that my voice has been and from my coughing that a little bit of rest would be appreciated. But if there's something you guys want to talk about, then please make sure to put it there into the chat. Art says the game will be $25 now and future chapters are free. Yes, it's amazing. Toby really made a good choice. I mean, the guy already makes enough money off of royalties and his merchandise that he can absolutely afford to make this choice, and I think that that's a really good choice, not just for the fans but for the industry. Hannah says, I'm hyped. Yes, I am hyped as well. This is going to be so much fun. Mig says, the doggy. Yes, the cute doggo. The annoying doggo. Yeah, there'll now be, so I now know how much time I have to get out some final Deltarune theory videos before we get chapters 3 and 4, and then of course we'll have to figure out what to do when those chapters come out. The job that I currently have is only temporary. I don't know for how long it will go, so there is a possibility to live stream it and show you guys my adventure through it, maybe, or I'll just be talking about the writing of the journey once things get going. Art says I'm so getting the physical version when it's finished in 2030 plus. Yeah, yeah, it's gonna still be a while. And wait, Switch 2, not 1. Yeah, Switch 2's come out though given given what's currently happening with tariffs and the likes, we were actually talking about this earlier today as a harem. It's going to cost like $800 to get your hands on a Switch 2, which is just ridiculous. If only mortgages were $25, yes, Mimic. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be nice? But then that would actually be taking us back into like the late 1700s, early 1800s. Man, I got $25. I can buy a house. Had just for the game? No, Hannah, for the console. The tariffs have made everything that coming over from Japan so much more expensive. It's right now speculated that people have to pay almost double the amount to get their hands on a Switch 2. But for the game, for instance, if you've got a PC like I have right here, it will only cost you $25 to get your hands on the game, and then you can play it from your computer. Woohoo! Hannah, what about the original version? That depends. That all depends. No one knows, as far as the economy goes, what weirdness is going to happen. And that's its own crazy conversation that, like, as we've talked about before, we don't want to get into current political things. However, economic realities is something that we can discuss that shouldn't be partisan, and it's something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on, because depending on how things turn out in the near future, it might be good to do a financial video. I'm like, okay, then, so everything's gotten way more expensive now. How do you live as a creator? We already were starving artists beforehand. What do we do now? So that'll just be something to keep an eye on. And he says, and I can get a huge Big Mac sandwich with some fries for only a penny. Ain't that great? Oh, man. Yes. Take McDonald's. You know, if you brought McDonald's back into the late 1700s, early 1800s and fed it to someone, I have no idea what would happen. They'd probably die. Oh, it's like, what? Like, they would love the taste, and then they keel over dead from the sheer amount of grease and sodium. And says, bro, they're making me buy 2 Switches. That's scammy as hell. Really? You should only have to buy one if you decide to go it. Well, I lost the first one, so oh, I see. Well, yeah, but you don't have to buy the Switch if you don't want to. Say I don't own one because I don't have the time to do as much gaming as I could have done as a teenager or at the beginning years of college, and it's expensive. All right, so I did get a McDouble small fries and a small drink for $2.79 today through the app. Was amazed. Ah, yes. So I don't know. People did a lot of drugs in the past. Oh, they did. Oh, they did. Now, here's the thing. They also drank way more, and not only way more, but more highly concentrated alcohol. So like when I was teaching, I knew that so many of my kids were illegally drinking, and I just be like, you can. So I would actually bring that up when talking about prohibition and the likes, and be like, okay, guys, you guys think that you can knock back alcohol? You know, like you're all a bunch of wusses. You're nothing. Then you have like those stupid guys in the back. Yeah, what do you know, Mr. Jensen? I can knock back a 6-pack. Yeah. I'm like, yeah. How much alcohol is in a can of like Coors Light? I don't know. Like barely anything. You know, like the stuff that these guys are drinking, like you're looking at 10, 20% alcohol. You guys drinking illegally on the weekends, you're drinking like 0.5%, 1%, 2% maybe. It's like if I gave you guys the alcohol that these guys drank, it would knock you out. And they don't, and these people, I mean, teenagers don't believe that because they think they're invincible. And sure enough, there are some historians that have like looked, for instance, into George Washington's retirement party, and these guys drank enough alcohol to take out an entire fraternity. So if you were to bring an entire frat house to a party and serve them what George Washington and his buddies drank at his retirement party, it would knock out an entire frat house. It was that much alcohol and it was that high content. And then in the late 1800s, during the Gilded Age, oh, there were so many shady drugs and everything. Like people didn't realize that they were giving their kids heroin at one point. There were a bunch of kids that were hooked on really hardcore drugs because it was put into their candies and into their basic cold and flu medicines. Hey, does your kid have coughs? Here, give them this syrup. It's laced with heroin. Does Granny have a headache? Here's a pill. It's laced with arsenic. Now you don't have to worry about Granny anymore. And funny thing that people don't believe me, but it's true. Marijuana was not used back in the day. When people are like, oh yeah, weed. I'm like, weed is weak sauce and weed is weird. Like back throughout the as Europeans began to discover more about drugs in the Americas and the discovery of marijuana, no one wanted to use marijuana because it stank and they didn't like the effects of it. Marijuana was not a popular drug. It was a drug that people used if they were stupid. No one wanted to look stupid. People who do drugs because they think it will make them look cool, and because they really like the effects. No one liked the effects of marijuana, and everyone thought it was stupid. Marijuana was a drug that no one liked until Richard Nixon arrived on the scene. Yeah. Richard Nixon wanted an easy win because of all the issues happening in Vietnam. And so he thought that he could earn easy political brownie points by stomping on a drug that everyone supposedly hated. So he vilified marijuana. And the thing is this, by vilifying marijuana, he made it popular. No one liked marijuana. People used it, but everyone thought that who used marijuana was stupid. No one, it was not a widely used drug. But when it got vilified by Richard Nixon, so he could earn brownie points, suddenly marijuana became all the rage. And that's now why certain cities like Denver smell like skunk all the time. Oh boy. Half a century ago, if you were a weed user, if you were a weed head, everyone would make fun of you and think you're the stupidest person. Yeah. I said my parents liked their mixed drinks, and they sometimes let me have a little bit on special occasions. They have Jack Daniels, which is 40%, and Kraken Rum, which is almost 50%. I definitely cannot take it. Yep. Say the hardcore stuff. George Washington, his pals, those guys. It reminds me of a scene from Sherlock Holmes, from the first Sherlock Holmes movie. You do realize that what you're drinking is meant for eye surgery. Tasty. I said, and people in the past would just down alcohol straight, no mixing involved. The definition of I don't like it until I'm not supposed to like it. Exactly. Here's a fresh Coca-Cola for that migraine. You will always come back for more. You'll wonder, why do I keep having migraines? It's the withdrawals, honey. And then the weed epidemic took over, and everyone had the time of their lives, especially in California. Oh boy, yeah. Say drug taking, and this is a story that there's a story that you can write for a TV account for anyone else. Taking inspiration from history, the weirdness of drug usage. Actually, I've been intending to do a series of historical fiction videos, and so look out for that sometime in the future. That'll be fun to do. Like, here's how you can draw inspiration from events in history to do a very interesting story. Then he says, and now this has all been watered down to just vaping. Well, here's the thing. So I have an uncle who is a doctor. If any of you have ever watched the show House before, that is my uncle. Not Hugh Laurie, but the guy that Hugh Laurie represents as House, as this crazy doctor that looks into the weirdest and rarest of diseases. That is my uncle, and my uncle even looks like House. He's got the facial hair going. He even has like a similar kind of frown. He's got the same job as House, except he primarily focuses on kids. And anyway, where was I going? Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so vaping. So he hates vaping, and the reason is that he's actually been a part of clinical trials and research where they've looked into what vaping can do to a person. It's not watered down. In fact, actually, like this is horrible to say, because vaping actually was originally intended as a way of helping people to overcome their addiction to smoking cigarettes and overcoming nicotine addictions. These days, it's actually healthier to smoke a cigarette than it is to vape. Vaping is more dangerous for the person who's vaping, and it's even more dangerous for people who are around them because there is no dilution. It is the straight up stuff, and it just gets infused in you. my uncle and one of my cousins who have been a part of various trials and research have said that they have just discovered horrifying things that can happen to people. Vaping will destroy you on so many levels. It is not good for your lungs. It's not good for your blood. It's not good for your brain. Even though vaping was at one point intended to help people overcome their addiction to smoking cigarettes, vaping has the potential to be even worse. And it's getting worse because people are needing even stronger fixes now. And so they're getting undiluted, hardcore nicotine, like enough nicotine to actually do some serious damage to their brains, enough HTC, which as I actually I played D&D with a guy who did research into the effects of weed, and he said one of the most dangerous things about weed is that we don't know enough. And he said weed will act differently for each different person, and if enough of the oil gets into your system, it can cause massive damage. But because the federal government in America restricts it so much, it restricts any use or study of it, we are decades behind understanding what weed can do, both positively and negatively. For instance, we know what heroin can do positively. Heroin can actually be used to help stabilize people during surgeries. It's very useful in correct mixes and at the right amount, which is why anesthesiologists get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars each year to put people to sleep using mixes of heroin that won't kill them. So that way life-saving surgeries can be performed without killing the patient. We don't know enough about weed to properly utilize it in a way that is healthy for the masses. We know that it can do good, but it will only do good in some instances, and in other instances it can be dangerous. And this is why vaping is so bad, because it gives the user just this undiluted mix. Yeah, and I'm sorry to hear that, Arts. Yeah, I started vaping a bit. One of them has cancer now. But yeah, due to smoking is just. I have an uncle who smokes. The guy's a chain smoker. I don't know how that guy is still alive. He's a great guy, and I just wish that he would take better care of himself. Yeah, it's not good. Bro, there's no way they're going to stop smoking vaping. Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. And I don't have the answers to any of that stuff. I know what I've been told by people who I very much trust, who are in the know, because again, my uncle is basically house. That's his job. His job is to look into the weird stuff. And they're like, he's like, I remember even having a conversation and he's like, oh yeah, we actually have medicine that will burn the fat off people. He's like, we absolutely have it. He said the danger is that we don't yet know what other long-term effects it could have that could be absolutely devastating to the individual. And so even though companies want to sell these drugs as weight loss drugs, he's like, no, you can't do it. You can't do it. As well as other people are like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. They're like, yes, we would love to have drugs that just melt the fat off people, but we don't yet know what the long-term effects could be, and we could be destroying people with this stuff. Please be smart. So, the world of medicine. Wow, we are so far afield from topics about writing now. All right. So I think I will call it there then for the night. Thank you everyone for being here, for contributing, for being respectful as you always are, for your questions and for your insights. Are you okay there, Lars? Again, it's just this cough. It's this weird cough. Eventually it'll go away and it's just done. Mau Mau would love weed. Oh, yes, she would, ISO. I just saw the newest episode today. That was an interesting setup episode. I'm looking forward to talking about it with Scott, especially because Scott knows way more than I do of what's actually happening. Drink plenty of fluid anyway. Oh yes, I have my water bottle right here, and I'll take a drink right now from it. Ah, good stuff. Good stuff. But guys, keep your eyes peeled for more videos here coming your way, and also as far as next week goes with what the topic might be. I'd like to hear from you guys what you might be interested in. So keep your eyes peeled as well for a for a poll on YouTube, which will be looking into we'll be asking you guys for what you would like our next lesson topic to be for our next live stream. So that way we can kind of get back to having some solid lessons and enjoying ourselves that way. And when the first episode for the Gaslight District drops, then we definitely will be doing a live stream talking about all of those shenanigans, and it's going to be a great time. Kamen Rider says Kamen Rider Gab just finished its latest arc. Oh, awesome. Hope it was a good one. So, with all that being said, y'all, I will see you guys in the next video. And until then, you have a wonderful morning, day, evening, night, wherever you are at. And tschüss.